All right. Um, little different, a couple changes to the setup. We did get an upgrade this time where you won't have to be staring at my face alone during this talk. Well, actually, I will be able to present a picture in the background and we'll be able to kind of follow through with it, talk about it, and hopefully enjoy it. Today, we're going to be talking about the Islamic sects or denominations, whatever you want to call it, the divisions within Islam. Without further ado, actually, I'm just going to go ahead and present. This is from the website. Information is beautiful. Here is the kind of the image, the imagery that we'll be discussing. Some key information is here is the key to understand this chart. So the big, thick kind of branch, well, it literally is branches of Islam. So you have the major, the Sunni, the Shia. Then within them, you have the different school of thought. So that would be the Twelvers, Ismaili, Hanafi, Hanbali, Shafi, such as. And then movements such as Alawites, Taliban, Jihadism, Ahmadi. So this is the key here, if you ever forget or whatever it may be. Um, of course, I do have notes. This is, as per usual, not at the top of the dome. I don't pretend to be something that I'm not. Um, could even pretend to be that way. But okay, I guess without further ado, let's dive into it. Shouldn't be too long. Hopefully, it'll be interesting. It was definitely insightful for me, even doing this, all the research. The resources that I use are very wide and different, everywhere from Wikipedia to Sunni websites to Shia websites to Twelvers to, I mean, I had to. I don't know if that's all accurate. This is the information I found. Hopefully, if you're watching this and you have corrections, please leave them in the comments. I'm all for it, all for correction. I'm here for the knowledge and understanding, not to boost my own ego or whatever it may be. So, without further ado, you have Muslims. Whenever you meet a Muslim, it may appear, I apologize, it may appear that, they're all one and the same, but that could not be furthest from the truth. They are very unique and different. So the first is the Quranists. Quranists, they hold the Quran to be the only authentic source of Islamic faith. They reject the different recorded oral traditions, hadiths. They argue that the hadith collections were compiled centuries after the Prophet Muhammad and are unreliable. So as a result, Quranists do not accept traditional Islamic jurisprudence that depend on hadith. Then we get the, uh, forgive me for my pronunciation, Kharijites, if I'm pronouncing it right. They are an extreme sect, initially supported Muhammad's cousin Ali, then rejected him. So they emerged during the first fitna, which is the civil war in Islamic history, when Ali and Muawiyah agreed to arbitration to come together. A group broke away, insisting that judgment belongs to God alone. They held that any pious Muslim could be a leader, regardless of tribal affiliation or lineage. So they did not have to be from the line of Muhammad or family relations of Muhammad. They were known for extreme rigorism and takfir, meaning they were declaring other Muslims apostates, so that led to them justifying violence against other Muslims. While the original Kharijites largely did die out, a moderate offshoot survives to this day called Ibadism. Let's say that. Ibadism. So this is a movement. Well, kind of. Kind of. This sect retained Kharijites' ideals of piety, justice, simplicity, but they did abandon the violence. They also do follow their own legal school um, of law, of thought, and have distinct theological views, but are generally peaceful sect. So no longer as the kind of the original Kharijites. And then you have Sufism, mystical form, focus on direct inner experience of God, and pervade all Muslims, numbers unknown. What this means is Sufism is not a sect, but a mystical and spiritual dimension of Islam. This is found both in in Sunni Islam and Shia Islam. So again, this is not a sect on its own, but it's found in both branches. Sufism kind of emphasizes on direct personal experience of God through spiritual practices, such as poetry, music, and it's focused on, I apologize for that, the interpersonal experience of God, utilizing mysticism as a path of experience and divine purification. And so now we get to the big schism, 632, the schism of Shia, which makes up, I don't know how accurate these numbers are, but we do know that Shia is in the minority while Sunni is in the majority of the Islamic world. So let's get into the differences between them two before we're getting into the subdivision within the thought. So the major beliefs, the Sunni Muslims believe Muhammad's true successor was his father-in-law, Abu Bakr. So this is the Sunni, the majority, believe that Abu Bakr, while the Shia, the minority, believe a rulership is decided, I apologize, believe Muhammad's cousin and son-in-law, Ali, succeeded him. Sunni Muslims believe that rulership is decided by consensus of the community, while Shia Muslims believe leadership or caliphate, the leadership, should be remaining within the family of Muhammad through the line of imams or their religious leaders. The Sunni, uh, the Sunni Muslim view the caliphs are political and religious leaders, but not divinely guided, while the Shia Muslims view the imams, especially the Twelvers, these gentlemen, um, that the imams are infallible and divinely appointed guides with spiritual authority. Sunni Muslims hold to the Quran, Hadith, consensus, analogy, while the Shias hold to the Quran, of course, Hadith, especially coming from the family line of interpretation and transition, and then reason, and place strong emphasis on the Imam's interpretation. Then Sunni believe a future Mahdi who will come to restore justice, while the Shia Muslims, especially in the 12, once again, the majority, by the way, believe the Mahdi is already born and is the 12th Imam and is in occultation, which means concealment. He did not die, but is hidden by God and is still alive and will return. So that's interesting. Now, prayer style and rituals. The Sunni Muslims perform all 5 prayers at their own distinct prayer times, while the Shia will often combine prayers, bringing them to 3 prayers a day, even though still doing their 5 required prayers just combined together. The Sunni will fold their hands together during a prayer, while the Shia will have their hands resting on their sides. The Sunni Muslims pray directly on the ground or a prayer rug or any clean surface, while the Shia will actually place a small clay tablet, usually made from Karbala soil, on the ground and touch their foreheads to it during prostration, emphasizing earth creation symbolism. Um, Also, Sunni Muslims do not seek intercession from imams, while Shia may invoke the names of imams or ask for intercession, though still directing prayer to God alone. And then Sunni Muslims observe Ashura as a day of fasting and remembrance of Moses being released from Egypt. However, while in Shia Islam, this day is a major day of mourning for the martyrdom of Imam Hussein at Karbala, so that same city where the stone is made out of. On this day, the individuals will do processions, they will do chest beatings and recitations for Hussein. Now, let us go into this branch, the Shia branch, the minority. We'll first start off with the Twelvers. So the Twelver, they are obviously different from Sunni Muslims, but also from Shia sects as well. So different from these brothers. The the Twelvers believe in 12 infallible imams who are divinely appointed. They are also sinless, spiritual, and political authority. The first imam was Ali ibn Abu Talib, which is Muhammad's cousin and son-in-law. The 12th imam and last imam is Muhammad al-Mahdi, um, and he's believed to be in hiding since the 9th century. Twelvers reject many Sunni hadiths and they rely on narrations through the Imam, especially that come from the family line of Muhammad. Now, from the Twelvers, we have a movement called Alawites. They are considered an extreme sect of Islam, a secretive and esoteric, so meaning only to be kind of understood by a small number of people with a specialized knowledge or secret or interest. Um, they reverence for Imam Ali is taken to a divine level, believing he is divine incarnation. So that's very interesting. The Alawites celebrate Christian and Persian holidays. The rituals and religious texts are kept secret, so, under political circumstances, the Alawites have aligned themselves with the Twelver Shia Islam for strategic and religious legitimacy. So, again, for political reasons. However, throughout history, many Sunni and Shia scholars have considered them to fall outside of Orthodox Islam. So, they're not really, yeah. Let us go to the Ismaili. So, they differ from the Twelvers, of course. They differ by following a different line of imams, so the religious leaders. The Twelvers, uh, after the sixth imam, the Twelvers went with the younger son, while the Ismailis, they went with his older son and his descendants. So they differed in that family branch. They also have a strong focus on esoteric interpretation, very individualized. They take influence from philosophy, in particular Neoplatonism. They do not observe Sharia law in its strictest form. They uh, they also don't have structured prayers and fasting. Also, pilgrimage, uh, as often viewed as symbolic or as optional even. For authority, they view the living present imam as the guide, and their interpretation is typically a final and direct. So, very high imamate or view of imam. Then you have the Alevi Bektashism. So, again, forgive me for my pronunciation. But they venerate Imam Ali and the 12 Imams. So they do have the 12. Ali is seen as a spiritual manifestation of the divine light. So that's fascinating. There's a reason why they're 0.5%. The divine light thing is viewed as close to divine, but not God. So very interesting too. Ali is often emphasized more in spiritual authority than Muhammad himself. They also emphasize on esoteric interpretation of Quran and rituals. Some view the afterlife more symbolic. They have a mystical kind of interpretation of afterlife. When it comes to rituals, they do. When it comes to rituals, they don't do 5 daily prayers. They don't fast Ramadan, but they do fast Asher. So to mourn Hussein again. They allow music and dancing as well as poetry, and they gather in houses instead of mosques. And now the last of the Shia is the Zaydism. Again, also point 0.5. Very, I don't know if that's accurate, but minority, even within minority. So, um, Zaydism, also known as the Fivers. So, reason why they're the Fivers is called because they recognize the first five Imams, ending with Zayd ibn Ali, the grandson of Hussein, and then the great grandson of Ali. They reject the infallibility of Imams, although they are highly respected, but they're not sinless. They also reject the belief in a hidden Imam or a Mahdi. They believe that the Quran is created, which is a minority belief. What this means is it was brought into existence by God at a certain point in time. This is what their belief is about the Quran. This is not the Orthodox belief. The Orthodox Islamic belief is that the Quran is considered uncreated, meaning it is the eternal word of God. It is God's speech and internal and uncreation, existing with God from eternity, not something that was created at a specific point in time. Now, let us go to the Sunni branch, the majority of Muslims. So, whenever you meet a Muslim, it's majority of the time Sunni, depending where, of course. Now, the small branch or the small, whatever you want to call it, the unorthodox. This legit is any that depart from the accepted Sunni theology. So if they reject the established legal schools, if they hold controversial or even novel beliefs, if they add to or reinterpret core practices, they are considered unorthodox. Nonetheless, they themselves still claim Sunni identity. And then from them, you have the Ahmadiyya. It is a movement that is considered by majority of the Islamic world as non-Orthodox, very fitting, and not even Muslim. The Ahmadi, don't believe Muhammad was the last prophet. They say that a guy named Mirza Ghulam Ahmad was a prophet, that he was the promised Messiah, that he was the Mahdi. So the Orthodox view this character as a false prophet. So for this reason, they are considered unorthodox and not even Muslim in many of the situations. Here are the four big madhabs, or also known as school of law or thought. So they all accept the core Sunni teachings. They all agree on all of the core doctrines. What they differ in is interpretation of Sharia law, the practical application of Sharia law and Islamic legal thought. So some examples of differences are such as raising hands in prayer. So the Hanafi will only do this as start of prayer. Same with the Maliki. The Shafi and Hanbali will do it at several other positions. Then you have teachings such as touching the opposite sex breaks wudu. What wudu is a purification process that Muslims perform before certain acts of worship and then specifically in prayer. So the Hanafi position is no, it doesn't break wudu unless with a desire. So unless you touch the opposite sex with a desire. So the Maliki say no, it doesn't break wudu. The Shafi say yes, it always does. So even if the desire is not there, you still break wudu. And then Hanbali is also no, unless with desire. And then a very odd one is dog's saliva. So the Hanafi view them impure, dog's saliva as impure, but they're a little less strict. While the Maliki say that it's just purely impure. That's funny. The Maliki says it's impure. The Shafi say it's very impure, and then Hanbali say that it's extremely impure. So I don't know what that really means, but just impure. Then another teaching is saying Amin aloud. So the Hanafi do it in silence. It's the same with the Maliki. And then the Shafi and the Hanbali will do it aloud. And then music. So music in Hanafi school of thought is generally discouraged. The Maliki is mostly discouraged. And then some lenience in the Shafi. And then the Hanbali is strictly forbidden. That's music. And then last example is the matrimonial guardship. So the Hanafi say a woman can marry off herself, while the other three schools of thought will say that a woman needs guardianship to marry herself off. So it's a quick summary of those core characteristics. The Hanafi The Hanafi seem more rationalist, flexible, use of reason, and it's very popular in diverse empires. Then you have the Maliki. The Maliki seem more traditionalist. They're community centered, especially when it comes on the Medinian practice. So you have the Mecca and then Medina of the time of Muhammad. So they focus on the Medina time. Then you have the Shafi, and then the Shafi are more balanced. They're methodical, the legal clarity and systemization. So it gives hierarchy of legal sources, making it clear how and when each source should be used. And then lastly, you have the Hanbali. The Hanbali are textualists, they're conservative, meaning their primacy is on literal text of the Quran and Hadith with minimal reliance on personal reasoning or analogical interpretation. Like they're using analogy of this time and comparing it to the time of Muhammad and the time of possibly an example of the Quran and so forth. Now let's go to these little branches. No, apologize, these three. We have the Wahhabi. The Wahhabi branches off the Hanbali school of thought, but they are and some more radical in some aspects, such as they strongly oppose saint veneration. They reject philosophy. They reject mysticism, or also known as Sufism. Um, uh, they minimize or kind of use in caution when using reasoning and consider um, use reasoning in a school of law or school of thought, and then they consider grave visitation as a shirk, uh, the gravest, the greatest sin. Meaning you're associating partners with God, and then you have Salafists. They reject traditional Sunni school of thought and law and theology. They favor direct interpretation of scripture, meaning Quran and Hadith alone. It also ranges from quietist to political and even militant, so depending on the stream. Some even advocating violent means to establish what they see as Islamic governance. So this is why jihadism is a movement stemmed from them. Although not all Salafists will acknowledge and support jihadism, um, this is just a stream or a branch from that militant aspect of Salafism. Now we're going to go to Barelvi and Diobandi. Barelvi and Diobandi. Both are actually found in or originated in India. Okay, so both followed the Hanafi school of thought. But obviously they differed. That's why they're different. So the difference are as follows. The Barelvi, they consider Muhammad as a light, spiritually present, and knows the unseen, while the Diobandi consider him just human with no divine or unseen attributes. The Barelvi, they fully embrace and encourage shrine visiting, shrines in general, saints, the intercession of saints, while the Diobandi will oppose shrine, geez, visitation, veneration. They'll discourage veneration of saints and saint intercession. The Barelvi, they accept innovation as long as it honors Islam, while the Diobandi will reject innovation and follow strict they'll follow the strict sunnah of the prophet. That's hard. Barelvi, they accuse Diobandis of disrespecting Muhammad, while the Diobandis accuse Barelvis of shirk, again, meaning associating partners to God. And they'll do that because of their saint veneration and then their grave practices. But obviously, both of them do claim true inheritance of Sunni Islam, the big old branch. And lastly, but not least, the Taliban coming off of Diobandi. Now, the Taliban goes extreme when it comes to their methods, militancy, political ideology, while coming from the while coming off of the Obandi, they just take an extreme step, take things radically. I mean, no other way to put that. But that's quickly, shortly, the differences of the branches, of the thoughts. There's definitely more to go into. I won't. There is. Um, Even in the four main madhabs, school of thought, school of law, there's more to go into. But those are kind of just the main characters. And then I actually want to do this too. This is kind of fun. I think they did it very well. This is where you'll find the majority minority. So the green is the Sunni, while the red is the Shia. So the majority is the Sunni, and so they'll find majority of such as like Egypt. They'll be there. Then you'll find majority in Turkey, in Saudi Arabia, of course, Libya, majority in Kuwait, Yemen, and then Shia. You'll find majority in Iran and Iraq. So that's kind of fascinating. And then outside of Middle East, you'll go to Pakistan. Well, Pakistan is mainly Sunni, some Shia. India is mainly Sunni. Same with Bangladesh, Indonesia, Nigeria. I think that's pretty cool. And then again, this is the Middle East where we just looked at Bangladesh as well. But yeah, that's it for that. I hope y'all enjoyed. I hope you learned something. And again, if I messed up somewhere, if I said something wrong, please do correct me in the comments. I would love to read up on it, fix myself. I'm not gonna post again about this because I mean, maybe I will though. I don't know. But cheers. I appreciate y'all listening and following through.